player, 50 player.
Oh, you know it's going to be one of those videos. This is Tim's New York Giants Straight Talk, powered by like Big Blue LLC. Want to talk about Kayvon Thibodeaux. Want to talk about Joe Schoen, the boy wonder, and what he's done to this team. And if the issues that the Giants are having right now are a direct correlation of Joe Schoen. And I always go back to the Kayvon Thibodeaux Evan Neal draft and one of the interviews he gave after he was the boy wonder. And he said, you know, everyone says I did such a great job in this draft, but it's pretty hard to screw up the 5th and the 7th pick. Well, Evan Neal has not played up to expectations, and Kayvon Thibodeaux, Kayvon Thibodeaux is Kayvon Thibodeaux. You either love him or hate him. You either love his game or you hate his game, but there are plenty of deficiencies in his game for a guy that was picked 5th overall. We've seen the good, we've seen the bad. We see how he gets with the media when he's not being portrayed, I guess, in the best light by the media.
I know that a lot's on you guys in the pass rush up front. Like this team's supposed to be built on. How much?
Anybody else got questions?
Kayvon, what happened?
Why is that a big
Go ahead.
For you?
Go ahead.
What happened on that penalty?
Man, I tried to convert. I think I kind of hooked his face mask.
So this guy is supposed to be one of your leaders on your teams, one of your premier players, someone that you drafted 5th overall 3 years ago now, and he can't even answer a softball question where he had 0 tackles and 1 quarterback hit on opening day, 100th anniversary. He gets this way. It happened last year. He had 2 bad games at the beginning of the year. He basically lashed out at the media, lashed out at the fan base. And then he has a couple good games, and then he's all smiles, cupcakes, and gumdrops. And then he has a sack half a sack, in the last 6 games of the season. And then once again, he's attacking the media and the fan base. This is supposed to be one of your leaders. This is supposed to be, hey, who the hell can screw up 5 and 7? Well, Joe, I might be looking at you. I'm not saying Kayvon Thibodeaux is a bust. I'm not saying Kayvon Thibodeaux is not going to, be this player that we all thought he was going to be. But if you take a look at his body of work and you take a look at what he's done in his Giant career, yes, he had 11.5 sacks last year with 50 tackles. Year before that, he had 4 sacks with 49 tackles. But if you take, and I don't want to go through this over and over again because we've done this ad nauseum. If you take a look at what he's done, if you take a look at his games, this is a guy that if you take a look at his sack ratio, it's not that great. If you take a look at how he plays the run, it's not that great. He had 0 sacks last year in the first 2 games. Then he had a stretch for, I think, then he had a stretch for 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 games, 6, and a 6-game stretch. He then had 8 sacks. So in 6 games, he had 8 sacks. And then he had then he went a game without a sack, and then he had 2 sacks, and then he basically had in his last 7 games, he had a sack. So he kind of disappears. And this is what his modus operandi is. He disappears for extended periods of times. He takes play. There was always this coming out of Oregon, there was always this scuttlebutt. There was always the rumors and speculations and innuendos that he took plays off, that he took games off, that he took series off. I personally didn't see it. I can tell you I didn't watch all of his games at Oregon's, but the games that I saw, he seemed fairly competitive. But you did see some times where he seemed disinterested. He is just one of these sullen players that if things don't go his way, if you don't praise him, he gets very truculent and he gets very upset. And he just takes it out on everyone else. And I think that's kind of a problem because the reporter's question was like, okay, this team was literally built on you and Burns getting to the quarterback. They went and got a carbon copy of yourself, slightly older, to pair with you on the other side of the line so you could have a sack attack. And we said it before, you guys had 4 tackles and 1 quarterback hit combined. And you also got yourself benched at one point in time, Kayvon. But then for you to basically dismiss the media, like, oh, what a stupid question. Is there any other questions out there? It makes me dislike you more and more. Never been a huge fan of like I said, I thought Kayvon Thibodeaux was the right pick. I said, I think they should have picked Thibodeaux. I did a whole video. I said, you should take Thibodeaux and White. So you can get your linebacker and you can, I even said, fix your defense, get your defensive end, get your linebacker, call it a day. But at the end of the day, he is the player that we thought and speculated he would be coming out of college? No. I always knew his run defense was porous, but I know how bad it was. Really did not know how bad it was. And like I said in the live stream, if I was Minnesota, I would run right at Kayvon Thibodeaux and Brian Burns because I have no fear of them because neither of them play the run extremely well. But for you just basically to kind of be an ass to the media because you don't like the question because you sucked, there's a problem with that. The other problem I want to talk about is the boy wonder. That, of course, is Joe Schoen. When Joe Schoen came in here, there was a lot of speculation what he could do, what he couldn't do, what the Mara was going to allow him to do. And I think in some regards, Hard Knocks should have dispelled some of the speculation and rumors that Mara had total control of this team because Mara did not want to let Saquon Barkley go. You could see that he was allowing a lot of leeway to his general manager. So you got to kind of dispel that rumor and you take a look at the things that Schoen has done and some of the good things. Right off the bat, you think of re-signing Thomas and Dexter Lawrence. But then the problem is you basically just re-signed two Gettleman guys to long-term deals. You really did nothing to scout, cultivate, and bring these players along to the Pro Bowl level that they're at. But that was a good thing. Bobby Okereke, I've said it before, we paid way too much for an off-the-ball linebacker. But he's turned out to be a good player. A good leader. Is he going to be? Is he that X factor on a playoff team? Like we said it before. If you take a look at the top 10 playoff teams, is he a starter and an X factor on a playoff team? Probably not. But for the Giants, he's a good player. We overpaid to get him. Take a look at what the market value was, especially looking at the Bears contracts for an off the wall linebacker. But it was a good move. It was a good signing. I like the Banks move. I think Banks is going to be a player. I don't want to be a player no more. He's going to be a player.
Player to player, pimp to pimp.
And I think he was a good pick. There's, I mean, I think those are some of the good things he's done. If you want to take a look at some of the things that probably helped stunt this franchise, first one you got to go to is going to be giving Daniel Jones the contract. You gave Daniel Jones the contract and you tagged Saquon when it should have been the opposite. No one was going to pay Daniel Jones what you paid him. You competed against yourself in the open market because you had fear that someone was going to sign Daniel Jones and he was going to become this quarterback that Dave Gettleman thought he was going to be. And you basically tagged Saquon Barkley and pissed him off. You could have just given Saquon Barkley the contract that he asked for and just then tag Daniel Jones because you were having cap issues, but you were still going to have a huge cap number coming down the pike. And you probably could have brought Jones back even less if you let him hit the free agent market because everyone has talked about this. Everyone has speculated about this. The prognosticators, the people on the networks, everyone said no one was giving Daniel Jones the money the Giants gave him. He would have gotten Mitchell Trubisky money that year. So once again, Joe Schoen totally misread the market. Now people are going to say, well, if you tag Jones, you're not signing Okereke. Okay, you're not a playoff team. Bobby Okereke, to me, in some regards, is a luxury player. But he's a luxury player if you're a playoff team. We're not a playoff team. Is Bobby Okereke going to be on the other side of 30 if this team turns it around? Probably, yeah. He's not going to be here. So I think that was a huge mistake. Right now, Kayvon Thibodeaux and Evan Neal are it's not looking good. Evan Neal can't get on the field. Kayvon Thibodeaux, while he has talent, he does have massive deficiencies in his game. And going into year 3, it doesn't look like he's fixing those problems. Like I said, I'm running right at Kayvon. I'm running right at Kayvon, right at Burns. I'm doing it all year long because they can't set the edge. They can't maintain their assignment. They're going to get over aggressive. And we saw that saw that against the Vikings. And we don't have outside linebackers to back them up. Just throwing that out there. Just throwing that out there a little bit. And of course, hindsight is 2020. Also thought the move not to bring back Julian Love was one of those moves. The Julian Love move was one of those moves you looked at and you were kind of like, on paper, you were kind of like, okay, this is a homegrown player who is starting to come into his own, who is starting to move the needle on becoming not just a good player, but becoming a really good player. And the Giants turned around and basically said, they did offer him a contract in season, which is more than was more than he got from Seattle. So his agent misread the market a little bit. But this was a guy in 2022 that people forget had 124 tackles, a fumble recovery. He was always all over the ball. You basically let him go to Seattle. You didn't basically let him go to Seattle for nothing. Now, and this is what pisses me off a little bit. Love came back hat in hand after not getting the money he thought he was going to get from Seattle and offered the same deal to the Giants. And the Giants refused to match it because they had already paid Slayton, they already paid Pinnock, and they already had Dane Belton on the roster. So they felt that they felt he was a luxury. And then what did he do? He goes to Seattle, another 123 tackles, 85 solo, only 38 assists. He went and played well again with 4 interceptions. He had a big interception. You know what's funny? He had a big interception on Sunday as well with 12 tackles. So glad we didn't give Julian Love $6 million a year. I'm so glad we didn't do that. And then you take a look at we've done this before. You take a look at his drafts. You go to the Shane drafts. Darren Beavers, nothing. McKeithen gone. DJ Davidson backup. McFadden. While McFadden has some ability, he's also the guy that missed the most amount of tackles, had the highest missed tackle percentage at his position. Dane Belton, garbage. Daniel Bellinger, we said it before, he's Caden Smith. Cordell Flott, garbage. Azuda hasn't shown anything. Wan'Dale Robinson, to me, is Darren Sproles, and we're waiting for him to become Jerry Rice, and you probably whiffed on Evan Neal and potentially Kayvon Thibodeaux. So out of that draft, there's maybe 4 players that should be on this roster? You go to next year's, you go to the 23 draft. Dane Belton. Okay, I got Dane Belton on the brain. You got Deontay Banks, good player. Schmitz, I still say, is an undersized center. He's got problems in this league. Hyatt can't get on the field. Eric is 2 yards in a cloud of dust gray. Trey Hawkins shouldn't even be on this roster. Jordan Riley backup, and Owen's gone. And then you got the like of Neighbors, Newmans, Phillips, Johnson, and Tracy. And you're relying on a 6th-round linebacker to come in and help solidify this team. I'm not seeing a lot in the drafts either. And you take a look at some of his free agents, some of his trades. The Darren Waller move. I said the day we signed Darren Waller, and I got blasted for it. I said, you're getting the tight end on the wrong side of 30, 2 years removed from his Pro Bowl season, who's got an attitude. And you went and traded for him. Yeah, how did that work out? Everything that I said was going to happen with Darren Waller happened. You knew the injuries were coming. You knew they were coming. You knew they were en route. But you for some reason, and I sometimes think Joe Schoen has the Madden mentality, that he gets enamored with players. that he gets enamored with names, kind of like Brian Burns. We've said it before. We've said it a million times before. He asks Dable, if you could have one player in free agency, what would you want? What position? Offensive lineman. Joe Schoen. How about Brian Burns? Shane Bowen's first meeting with the Giants as the new defensive coordinator. Joe Schoen asked him in this meeting. It's in Hard Knocks. What do you need to make this defense successful? 2 linebackers. Joe Schoen. How about Brian Burns? You already had it in your mind what you were going to do, and you already had in your mind that you were going after Brian Burns. But Brian Burns, again, does not technically fit this team. We are cut and paste players. We are taking players that probably do not have any continuity together, and we're cutting and pasting them and hoping that they are going to work out. And then you look at the likes of going after Paris Campbell. Once again, misreading the market. Paris Campbell even said, nobody was offering me a contract besides the Giants. And the Giants overpaid to get Paris Campbell because why? They were desperate to get a weapon for Daniel Jones. That's just silly shit. And I love it. Every player that we watched on Hard Knocks that the Giants signed, the Giants just gave more money. That was their philosophy, not to sell them on the team, not to sell them on the franchise, not to sell them on New York, not to sell them on the ability that we are going to have to be this awesome team again. Nope, it's all about money. The market value for Drew Lock is only $4 million. We're not going above that. Well, let's give him $5 million. Elmore Fudd, he's gotten this big deal from the Cardinals. Let's match it and give him more money. John Runyon, he might go to the Jets. Well, let's just give him more cash. And then you watch Josh Jacobs, who basically said that he took less money to go to the Green Bay Packers because of the culture, because of the team, because of the organization. But for the Giants, it's just, hey, let's just bring these guys in. Let's overpay. And this is what, and I can't fault them for this because this is what bad teams and bad organizations do. They overpay for average to below average players because of the fact that they can't bring them in off the quality of what they're going to do on the field.
Are you crazy? Or just plain stupid?
Stupid is, stupid does, Mrs. Blue.
And I'm not saying that he's stupid. But I just worry at times that Joe Schoen has a singular focus on a direction, but his philosophy doesn't seem to match the coaching staff. You went out and got Brian Burns for an defensive coordinator who's a Tampa 2 type guy who plays a bend not break defense, who rushes 4 guys and blitzes maybe 25% of the time. And you thought Brian Burns was a perfect idea for him because, yes, you need an additional pass rusher, but you didn't also possibly think maybe a linebacker or someone in the secondary would be a good option. You have a quarterback who has a propensity to not have the ability to throw deep.
Just keep matriculating the ball down the field, boys.
And you have an offensive philosophy where it is a dink and dunk offense predicated on what was predicated on the run game with Saquon Barkley. And you played a dink and dunk style because that's what your quarterback does. So what do? You go out and get a speedster like Malik Neighbors. You want to talk about how bad Gettleman was. And I understand that. We always want to talk about how bad Gettleman was. Gettleman was bad. Gettleman draft. I think Gettleman's drafting better than our old buddy here, Shane, but Gettleman was bad. Yeah, we agree with that. But you also have a guy in Joe Schoen that I just don't understand how he misreads the market so poorly and so badly on different players. And it was like the whole Isaiah Simmons thing. Isaiah Simmons, it was worth a flyer. He's going into the wink attacking style defense. He just couldn't play. And he played the least amount of snaps. And people, all they want to do is extol his coverage value. But here's the problem. Everyone talks about, well, he didn't give up any touchdown. Yeah, but he also gave up, I think it was 77% passing percentage with like 8 yards a catch. And I can't remember how many first downs he gave up. And he played in the least amount of snaps in his career because he couldn't get on the field. And now he can't get on the field again. He's the third nickel. But he was going to be, I remember all this. He's going to be the X factor. He's going to be that guy that's going to be all over the field. He's going to be that Julian Love, Peppers, Logan Ryan type player. It's just weird to me how you can misread the market so badly on so many things. You really can. And I get frustrated watching these other teams in our own division and other teams and around the league, how they do things and how they operate. And then you come back here and you just want to.
I don't want to tell them what a cheap, lying, no good, rotten, four-flushing, low-life, snake-licking, dirt-eating, inbred, overstuffed, ignorant, blood-sucking, dog-kissing, brainless, dickless, hopeless, heartless, fat-ass, bug-eyed, stiff-legged, spotty-lipped, worm-headed sack of monkey shit he is. Hallelujah! Holy shit! Where's the Tylenol?
That's kind of what I want to say to Joe Schoen sometimes. Because it's also the smugness for a guy that's really done nothing that kind of gets to me. And we've said this before. You take a look at this roster, and we broke it. We did it on the live stream. We'll talk about it again real quick. If you are a top 10 playoff team, take a look at the Giants defense and how many people in the Giants, we'll start with the offense. How many people in the Giants offense would start on a top 10 playoff team? I'm going to give you one, and I'm going to give you Andrew Thomas. I can't give you Malik Neighbors because he's a rookie and it doesn't tell me he's going to start on a top 10 playoff team. But I'm going to give you one guy. Same thing with the defense. How many guys on a top 10 playoff team on the Giants defense would a player on the Giants defense start? I'm going to give you Lawrence. I'm going to give you Burns, and that's it. I can't give you Thibodeaux, and I can't give you a Karake because to me a Karake fits a system, and he fits a style of play. So I'm going to give you 2. So there's 3 guys out of 22 that I think could start on a top 10 playoff team. Now listen, here's the funny thing what's going to happen. This is the funny thing. Giants will probably end up winning on Sunday. Probably win like 28-21, something like that. And all the ill wills and everything's going to be back to normal. Content creators are going to wet themselves. They're going to say how wonderful this team is and how week 1 was an aberration. And then we're going to go to Cleveland, home to Dallas, at Seattle, home to Simpson. I'm sorry. We're going to go to Cleveland. We're home against Dallas. We're going to go to Seattle. We can then have Cincinnati, Philadelphia, Pittsburgh, and Washington again. We may lose 7 in a row after that. If we win against Washington, we're probably going to lose 7 in a row. It's just I don't know. We're going to have a happy cheery video on we're going to have a happy cheery video tomorrow. How about that? Let's do a happy cheery video. Because I just look at Joe Schoen sometime and I want to say,
you are a sad, strange little man, and you have my pity. Farewell.
Because you know what? Who the hell could screw up 5 and 7? Oh, we're going to have a lot of fun this week. This is Tim's New York Giants Straight Talk, powered by Online Big Blue LLC. Don't forget to like, don't subscribe, don't forget to ring that bell because you want to know why. That'd be awesome.